And especially where adolescence takes off, that's like the kid, the proverbial kid. I don't know how true this is in other countries, but in America, we have this sort of aphorism about the kid who, um, between age 12 and 13, he grows a whole foot in size so that you can't keep him clothed. That happens a lot in the positive spiritual adolescent, and it's a major problem in the stage. But wanting to know God will get you out of it, just like wanting to know God gets you out of all the stages. So that pretty much covers the seven-faceted house of thinking. Now we get to the four-sided happiness, and again, it's pretty tumultuous, but it's stronger. It's going to manifest itself as enthusiasm in the Greek word elpis, meaning hope, which is the problem-solving device of adolescence in 1 Corinthians 13:13. That elpis, that confidence, that strength is really the beginning of his four-sided happiness rooting. In childhood, the dots are laid. They're like little seeds. In adolescence, they sprout and become strong plants. All right? But they're still plants, but they're strong. And that's why hefty, hearty, his own, and husband intimate are partially filled in. All right? They're starting to connect. The dots are starting to connect, and there's a shooting up that occurs. But it's still a plant. All right? The happiness has begun. It manifests as enthusiasm, even cockiness, in the word itself, because you begin to see for yourself that the word is actually valid. And that creates a whole range of behavioral and emotional reactions in the soul that'll go on. So that's all I'm going to say about that now, because really the four-sided happiness matures in adulthood and spiritual maturity. So this sort of concludes the spiritual adolescence description. I should close with just the note there that's at the bottom of the page, because this really characterizes the whole thing. The turning point in spiritual adolescence is A, that the Bible as a whole, that's doctrinal orientation, begins to be grasped as a whole. Plus B, you realize, and this is your attitude, you realize the need to get serious about it. Those are two, my pastor likes to call this the tandem. The doctrine in your head has to be perceived as a wholeness. That's one side of it, the content you're looking at. But B is your attitude toward that content. It is not enough just to know Bible. You have to have an attitude about it that you want to get serious about it too. It's, a lot of people are gung-ho for God, but they have no Bible in them. Well, then they're spiritual children, or maybe somewhere in spiritual adolescence. They're not adults. The other sort of group of Christians that you generally find who are in childhood or adolescence, they know their Bible real well, and they know all kinds of things about church history, and especially the Calvinists, they'll debate with the Catholics about what the church fathers said. So they're real gung-ho on knowing all these facts and quotes in the Bible, or about the Bible, mostly about it. They really don't know the Bible that well. But their own personal attitude is really not a love for God or a beginning desire to have the relationship with God. It's all ego. So they're flunking B, but they're real good on A, or seem to be good on A, really. Or else you have the other crowd, which are real emotionally gung-ho on God, but they have no Bible, or very little. And when you ask them about the characteristics and meaning of God or the characteristics and meaning of certain doctrines, they don't have a clue. So that's where Christianity roughly divides out that you see in the world today, is that they have lots of emotion about God or even desire to know God or have the relationship, but they don't have the Bible to go with it. They don't have the A. So their tandem is off. So if you feel that you're in that situation, figure out which of the two it is that you're missing. Are you too much on knowing the Bible but not enough on your motive, which is B, to know God? Or are you too much on knowing God, but it's a touchy-feely thing to you and you have no knowledge of Bible? You don't know God if you don't know Bible. And if you know Bible but not God, then what's the point? And that's where Christians divide out. People in the A category are legalists. They're hung up on, oh, see, I know the Bible so well, and they're priding themselves, and they think they even serve God by how well they know it. Well, they don't. And then the B category, they think that they're spiritual because they feel so good. Okay, but they don't know what the Bible actually says. And they're not living the spiritual life. Either category, they're flunking. And probably both of those categories are not using 1 John 1:9. So there's your harbinger of the reality. As you can see, getting through adolescence, just like getting through adolescence as a human being, is especially tumultuous as a spiritual being. To sort of sum it up, you're going through a major transition from childhood to adulthood. And it's actually in this stage, oddly enough, this stage and in spiritual maturity itself, the last olive box, that you will go through your most difficult times, because these are the two stages, the two times, when Satan and company try to do the most to stop you. Because if you make the transition from adolescence to adulthood, and most Christians don't, 99% of Christianity historically never makes it out of the playpen. And you can prove that because Christian theology is extremely childish. It's unbelievable. They don't even get the gospel right. They don't even get 1 John 1:9 right. They don't even know what the filling of the Spirit is. And it's unmistakable if you know the Greek. Katarizo is used all over the Old Testament. Okay, but who knows about that today? A lot of people know about 1 John 1:9, but they don't know that it produces filling. So, this has been going on for centuries, and I'm sure that God has pointed it out to individuals who've read their Bible over the years, or they just did it. They didn't know that this is what happened, and they just grew and eventually found out. But, you've got to understand that less than 1% of Christians historically have actually made it to adulthood and stayed there. Well, that's because Satan's real good at masking what the spiritual life even is. And you can look all over the internet. I found 12 sites on the internet that even knew what 1 John 1:9 was, and most of them are disputing it now. Which if you're 5 years old and you read the verse, you know you're supposed to do it. Okay, but you got all these ding-dongs claiming that you don't need to because Christ paid for your sins. Yes, he paid for your sins, but your fellowship is still an option on your part. And that's what grows you spiritually. Okay, but today we have other options. Today there are teachers out there who've got their word. They're not popular, but they're out there just teaching the word. They just go line by line, what does the Bible say, and they just teach it for what it is. So you can get this stuff publicly now. That's how I got it. And so that's how you can grow out of it and you'll still be in this 1% of people historically who even make it to spiritual adulthood. You get the Bible in your head, you keep on using it, and then you grow from wanting the Bible to feel good to wanting the Bible to know God. And from that, you'll go from gold to green.